Welcome back to the show. Sitting here with Don Felder. Again, this is one of those nights where I wish, one of these nights, where I wish we had like 4 straight hours, but of course we don't. I was talking about how this, for all the arguing that went on, the creative process just worked so well for you guys. Like you said, you would write music and they would put lyrics, and Joe Walsh talks about you guys warming up, and he played the riff for Life in the Fast Lane, and that's how they thought of that tune. And it's just a shame that, you guys didn't go on for another 20 years making records. But the culmination with you and Glenn Frey, which I guess was getting kind of heated up, ends in one of the funniest stories. Funny now, not so funny back then. But you say in the documentary you were not a political guy. Yeah. And Henley and Frey really were into politics and blah, 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 and the environment. Important causes. And there was Senator Alan Cranston from California invited you guys to play at a benefit. And you explained the story. What happened? You said something that Glenn Frey overheard to the senator that he took offense to.
Well, like I said, I was never particularly politically involved in politics at all. I didn't care about it. It was just like something that I thought if you were going to do a benefit, you'd be better off doing a benefit for cancer research or children with causes or St. Jude's or something where actually some good would come.
It's a definite thing that you're sending money to. Right?
Yeah, instead of a politician.
There's no gray area. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So, I didn't have anything against it, but when we had this meet and greet backstage before the show, there were probably 100 people backstage, different walks of life and stuff. And Senator Alan Cranston's wife came over to me to thank me for doing this benefit. Okay. And I was standing there with my wife, and so she said, "Thank you for coming out and doing this." I said, "Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to do it." And as she walked away, I turned to my wife and said, "I guess."
Right.
Because I had no idea who
I
Alan Cranston was.
Right.
It's like, well, I guess you're welcome, I guess.
And Glenn Frey heard that.
And Glenn heard that and felt really insulted, like I'd insulted Mr. and Mrs. Cranston in some way to their face, which was not the intent.
Right.
Grabbed me, took me in the dressing room, and started really getting into my face, really angry. Now, you have to understand that we'd been on the road for like a year and a half, nonstop, abusing everything you could put in your body at the time. Right. And our nerves were just frayed down to, raw tissue. So anyway, Glenn lit into me, and I had had enough of it. I finally said, "You're up." Right. Blah, blah, blah. Right. Just before we walked on stage. Now, on stage, we used to have back on our amps, we used to drink all sorts of spirits. Courvoisier was mine, and Glenn would drink some other bourbon or whatnot.
Right. And on stage, you'd have Courvoisier.
Yeah, sitting on our amp. So we would go back and pretend that we were like making an adjustment on our amp and take a swig of booze or something else that was lined up on our amps.
Right.
And so as the evening progressed, the anger just continued to build between Glenn saying stuff to me and me saying back to him. I think he said something like, "When we get off this stage, I'm going to." Well,
Simzik has audio of it, which is amazing about the documentary. Where he's saying, "I 3 more songs, man. I can't wait a minute again." And you're saying stuff back to him. Yeah. And so he says, "I want to fight you. When we're done with this concert, I'm going to punch you."
Yeah, and like I said, we're both 98 pounds at the time. We couldn't have broken anybody's nose or anything. So
and you're all drunk and doing whatever else.
And so we call it the wrong night at Long Beach. It was the nickname for it. But anyway, one of the things Joe used to do is when he got really frustrated on stage at whatever it was that day.
Joe Walsh.
Yeah, he would walk off stage and he would smash a guitar.
Okay.
So I felt like if there's ever a night, this is the night I should do that. So I told my roadie, I said, "Get my old Takamine acoustic and put it by the side of the stage. When I walk off, I'm just going to smash the heck out of this thing." So I walked down this ramp. Everybody had left the stage. I thought it was gone. I walked down, grabbed this guitar, and slammed it into this big cement column and turned around as this thing was shattering into the air. And there was Senator Alan Cranston, his wife, and Glenn Frey standing right there.
Oh, man.
Which was just like, hit the eject button. I was thinking, that story.
Hey, man, you went out swinging.
But
it's a rock and roll way to go out.
Yeah, but it wasn't intended to be an insult to anyone. It was just
you just had to get this out.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
And so I jumped in the limo and took off.
And that was the last gig you ever played until '94?
That's right, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, had you had other gigs lined up after that you had to cancel, or was that the end of it?
I think it was really a time that we had been through a long, difficult time of making the long run record.
Right.
And we had been out touring for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and we were just cooked. Everybody wanted a break. So Glenn was the first one that stepped up and said, "That's it, I'm not working in this band anymore." He called Henley and said, "I can't work with you anymore. I'm going to go make my own solo record. See you later."
So he was even sort of frustrated with Don Henley.
I think with the whole thing.
Yeah,
he was just tired of the whole thing. You know, we all were. We all needed a break. And the one ironic part of that is Bernie Ledden used to say, we need to take more time off. Let's take a couple of months. We'll go to Hawaii, get some sun, relax, charge your batteries up, get some sun on your face. Take a deep breath and we'll go back into work. And they were, no, we got to strike while the iron's hot. And we just keep working, you know, nonstop. And then the ironic part is that if we had listened to Bernie a little more carefully, we would have been able to pace ourselves, I think.
Just to explain the kind of success you guys had, though, I mean, after Hotel California comes out, you put out the greatest hits, and you guys sold 1 million records a month for 18 straight months. That is like really insane. That, I mean, by anybody, by Michael Jackson standards, that's insane. So that's 18 million right there, and I think it ended up selling 26 million or something in last century, the highest selling album of last century.
Yeah, it was the biggest selling record of the 20th century. And if you think of all the acts like the Rolling Stones, Elvis Presley, everybody that made records in the 20th century, it was a real honor to be even a small part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine.
A huge part of that.
I mean,
as
big as you can get. I mean, you know, certainly you're writing the biggest. I mean, to me, the song you think about the most was Hotel California when you think of the Eagles. But so what happens right after that? Do you go through a depression? Do you go through withdrawal? Are you satisfied a little bit? Are you relieved at all after you leave the band? Like, what happened?
Well, I don't think I left the band. You mean in 80?
I mean, after the 80 thing, after you smashed the guitar.
Everybody was relieved. I mean, nobody had to get up and go back in the studio or write songs or go on the road or any of that stuff. The Eagles organization is like a big pressure cooker. The longer you're in it, the more intense the pressure gets.
I'm sure.
So it was like a really well-received respite for everybody. Glenn went and made a solo record. Don made a great solo record. Joe went and made. Everybody scattered for the hills to make solo records at your own time, your own space, at your own interest. You record the stuff that wasn't appropriate for the Eagles at the time, and you could write and record anything you wanted. So it was a fun time. I really missed the camaraderie that was going on in the band. There were some great times we had together, and yet there was a lot of tension and frustration and yelling and arguing and all that. But the ultimate result of that whole project was that much talent in one band produced some really great records. And I regret, if anything, and I was asked in the documentary, I don't know if it stayed in or not, that if I had any regrets about the whole situation, I said, I only regret that we didn't spend more time writing and recording together instead of arguing and
that comes through.
Absolutely. Like, I wish that we had taken this talent and managed it more appropriately.
Because that's what you guys did best. I mean, and when that was at its best, it must have been like a marvel to see. Like Irving, your manager, said, I had a front row seat to watch you guys create songs, and it was really incredible.